My wife didn't even know that my parents had taken our child on vacation without warning. When I found out about it, I could not contain my emotions. Now my parents realized they had committed a crime. You ever have a moment that feels like your entire world just tilts sideways? That was me. Thursday afternoon. I was sitting in the car, picking up lunch for my wife, and I got this picture in a group text from my mom. It was of my daughter Emma, 4 years old, wild curls, gap-toothed grin, standing on a beach. Not the local lake, not a water park, a beach, with a pier, seagulls in the background. The caption, "Look who's having fun in Myrtle Beach. Grandma and Grandpa time." I damn near rear-ended the car in front of me. I stared at the photo for a good 10 seconds before it registered. Emma was with my parents. At the beach. I didn't even know she was gone. I immediately called my mom. No answer. Called my dad. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. By this point, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove home in silence, my mouth dry, my brain on fire. I kept telling myself this had to be a joke. A mistake. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe someone photoshopped it. But deep down, I knew. And when I walked through the door and saw my wife staring at her phone with this look of complete horror and betrayal on her face, I knew I wasn't crazy. She looked up at me and said, "What the hell is this?" Her voice cracked at the end. She was holding her phone, the same picture I'd just seen. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were wide and wet. "I didn't know," I told her, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know they took her." And that's when the screaming started. Not at each other, but from her. My wife, who is usually so composed, so precise with her emotions, absolutely lost it. They kidnapped our child. They took her across state lines. How did we not notice? What kind of parents are we? I tried to calm her down, but honestly, I wasn't much calmer. My brain was racing through everything. Emma hadn't slept at their house in over 2 weeks. We hadn't agreed to anything. My mom had mentioned maybe taking her for a day trip to the zoo sometime soon, but nothing about this. And now our daughter was in another state on a beach with 2 people we've already had serious boundaries issues with. Let me back up a second. Context. My parents have always had this warped idea that Emma was their second chance. Like, they weren't great parents to me and my sister. Controlling, manipulative, emotionally distant. But now they get to be fun, spontaneous grandparents and make up for it. My wife, understandably, never trusted them. She's more protective of Emma than a lioness guarding her cub. And honestly, I love that about her. They've crossed lines before. Giving Emma food she's allergic to, accidentally bringing her to their church even though we asked them not to, telling her mommy is just too anxious when she says no to something. But this was next level. I checked Emma's location on the kid's smartwatch we'd gotten her, which my parents always said was overkill. Thank God for overkill. Confirmed it, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We live in Ohio. They had taken our child across state lines without permission. Not even a courtesy text. Nothing. Just gone. And now I'm sitting on the floor, my wife crying beside me, both of us wondering, what the hell do we do now? So we finally got a call from my mom. 26 hours later. Not a second sooner. We'd spent the entire day before calling lawyers, police non-emergency lines, and even a family friend who works in child protective services. Everyone said the same thing, since she's safe and with family we'd need to prove we didn't give permission before anyone could act, especially across state lines. But they all agreed this was not okay. And yes, it might be considered custodial interference or even parental kidnapping, depending on the circumstances. By the time my mom called, my wife was pacing like a storm cloud in the hallway, phone in hand, shaking. I picked up on speaker. "Hi, sweetie," my mom said, like she wasn't actively blowing up our entire lives. "I saw you called a bunch. Everything okay?" That was her opener. I clenched my fists. "Where is my daughter?" She sounded confused. "What do you mean?" "She's here. She's been having so much fun. We took her to the boardwalk yesterday and she picked out a little sea turtle plush." "You didn't ask us. You didn't even tell us. What the hell are you thinking?" That's when my mom switched gears. You're overreacting, she snapped. We're her grandparents. We've taken care of her plenty of times. We didn't think you'd mind. My wife screamed from the background. You took her out of state. Oh please, my mom said, her tone getting colder. You two are always so uptight. Emma needed a break from all that structure and anxiety you smother her with. We're allowed to have time with her. She needs us. She really said that. And then, I swear to God, she goes, besides, we have rights. We could take you to court if we wanted to. We're not strangers. We're family. I felt something snap inside me. You took our daughter without permission, I said slowly. You crossed state lines. You ignored every boundary we've tried to set. This isn't just bad judgment. This might be criminal. Do you understand that? There was a pause. You wouldn't actually call the cops, she said. Would you? My wife stepped forward and grabbed the phone. You're bringing her back. Tomorrow. And if she isn't here by 5 p.m., we will call the police. We already spoke to a lawyer. I'd never seen her like that before. I mean, I've seen her angry, but this was different. Her voice had the steel to it, like she was holding back an explosion. My mom started sputtering. You don't have to threaten us. We were doing you a favor. You never let us see her anymore. And that was the moment I realized something I think I always suspected. My parents don't see Emma as our child. They see her as theirs, or worse, a pawn. A thing they can use to rewrite the story of how they failed me. They think they're entitled to her. They think they can do no wrong. When the call ended, my wife collapsed onto the couch and sobbed like I've never seen her sob before. Guttural, wrenching sounds. What if they didn't come back, she whispered. What if we never saw her again? That thought had been circling in my head like a vulture since yesterday. I just sat next to her and held her. That night, Emma FaceTimed us. She was wearing a seashell necklace and holding a bucket of collected sand dollars. Grandma says I'm staying for 3 more sleeps. I smiled for her, but I felt like I was dying inside. We told her we missed her and that we'd see her tomorrow. She didn't understand. Why would she? She's 4. She thinks this is a fun surprise trip. She doesn't know her grandparents betrayed us. She doesn't know what they almost took from her. They showed up at 6:42 p.m. the next evening. 42 minutes after the deadline we gave them. 42 minutes where my wife was pacing by the door, holding Emma's favorite stuffed sloth, whispering, what if they don't come? What if they don't bring her back? I stood by the window the whole time, heart thudding like a damn war drum. And then I saw it. My dad's silver SUV pulled into the driveway, Emma in the back seat, head resting against the window, half asleep with sand stuck in her curls. My mom was in the passenger seat, sunglasses still on like she was trying to hide from more than just the sun. When they got out, Emma ran to us, groggy but smiling. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Daddy. I missed you. She was wearing a t-shirt that said Nana's Beach Babe in neon glitter letters. I bent down, scooped her up, and kissed her cheek so hard she giggled. She didn't understand. Not yet. But she was safe. That's all that mattered right then. My wife was crying but trying to hold it together. Go inside with Daddy, baby. I'm going to talk to Grandma and Grandpa. The 3 of them stayed on the porch. I watched from the hallway holding Emma, my heart burning with every word I couldn't quite hear. My wife wasn't yelling, but her tone was sharp. Clipped. I caught little phrases through the screen door. You endangered her. Never again. Legal consequences. And then my mother, with that tight, forced smile, reached out and touched my wife's arm. I saw her mouth move. My wife jerked away. Later she told me what my mom said, you're going to regret cutting us off. Emma needs us. And you can't keep her from us forever. A threat. AF **ing threat, **. They got back into the SUV and drove off like they'd just dropped off dry cleaning, not our child who they kidnapped for 3 days. The door clicked shut. My wife and I just stood in the living room in total silence for a minute, Emma humming quietly as she unpacked her little seashell collection on the coffee table. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't over. They weren't sorry. Not really. They didn't think they did anything wrong. They were just pissed they got caught. And now they were talking about lawyers? That night we put Emma to bed early. She kept asking why we looked sad angry. We told her we missed her and that we were so happy she was home. But after the door closed, my wife turned to me and said, I don't feel safe. We stayed up researching. We looked into protective orders, emergency custody clarifications, even no-contact options for grandparents, stuff I never in my life thought I'd have to Google. Turns out, in our state, grandparents don't have automatic visitation rights, especially if the parents are married and unified in their decision. But if they can prove a close bond and harm from being cut off, they can try. And here's the kicker. The next day we got a certified letter. From their lawyer. It was a formal inquiry into grandparent visitation rights. I stared at the envelope in disbelief. They took our child without permission, lied to us, dismissed our concerns, and now they were going to fight us in court? As if we were the villains? My wife was speechless. When she finally spoke, all she said was, "We're going nuclear." We called our lawyer. We documented everything. Screenshots of texts. The FaceTime photo. The timestamped watch location. The voicemail where my mom said, "We didn't think you'd mind." We wrote it all down in a timeline. I never wanted this. I never imagined being at war with my own parents. But when you threaten my child, when you try to legally force your way into our lives after betraying every shred of trust we gave you, you declare yourself the enemy. It started small. Emma was sitting at the kitchen table, coloring like she always does after preschool when she said it casually like she was telling us her favorite ice cream flavor. "Nana says I'm going to have a big room at her house soon. With sparkly wallpaper." I was pouring cereal. I froze. My wife, sitting next to her, slowly put down her coffee. "What do you mean, sweetie?" she asked carefully. "You have a big room here." Emma shrugged. "Yeah, but Nana said I'm gonna live with her and Papa when you guys are too busy." My heart stuttered. I crouched down next to her chair. "Emma, did Nana tell you that?" She nodded. "Yeah. She said it a bunch of times at the beach. She said it's okay if I miss you because I'll have new toys and she'll make chocolate chip pancakes every morning." That night, I couldn't sleep. Neither could my wife. We laid there in the dark, our daughter sound asleep down the hall, and just talked. This wasn't just a reckless trip, my wife said. They were trying to plant something in her head. I swallowed. I think they were preparing her. In case they didn't bring her back. The thought made my chest cave in. We decided to check Emma's smartwatch. She wears it almost every day and it has a basic recording feature. We've barely used it, but sometimes she plays with it, pretending to be a spy or superhero. She once recorded herself whispering, "Daddy farted," and blamed it on the dog, which was honestly Emmy Award-worthy. But that night, my wife checked the files while I held her hand tight. There were 47 recordings. Most were nonsense. Emma singing, talking to herself, describing her juice box. But one stood out. The timestamp said it was from the second night she was gone. We tapped play. A faint rustling sound. Emma's voice, "Is it really a secret?" My mom's voice, clearer than I expected. "Yes, baby. It's our little secret, okay? Sometimes mommies and daddies just don't know what's best. But Nana does. And one day you might stay with us more. Wouldn't that be fun?" "Emma, what about mommy?" "My mom, oh honey, she'll be fine. You're our special girl. You belong with us." My wife covered her mouth. Her whole body shook. I didn't even realize I was gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. They were grooming her. They were conditioning her. Not just to enjoy the trip, but to accept the idea of being taken. Of living with them. Of us not being part of her life. It was predatory. Insidious. I sent the recording to our lawyer that night. They called us the next morning, voice tight and serious. "You need to come in. This changes everything." We brought everything. The recording. The watch. The timeline. Our lawyer said this wasn't just about visitation rights anymore. It could be a case of custodial interference or even emotional manipulation of a minor. Depending on how aggressive we wanted to get, we could push for a restraining order. And for the first time since this nightmare started, we had leverage. But while we were filing paperwork and strategizing, Emma came home from school with something else. A birthday invitation. To my parents' house. It was a party. For a kid from her class. Hosted at Grandma and Grandpa's. We looked at the card. The address was theirs. The names listed? Our child's. I stared at that invitation like it was a damn threat letter. Bright colors. Balloons. Clip art animals. Join us in celebrating Emma's 5th birthday. Hosted by Nana and Papa Saturday at 2 p.m. Pizza, games, and pony rides. My wife whispered, "That's not her birthday. It's not even close." She was right. Emma's birthday is in June. This party was 2 months early. And we hadn't planned anything yet. "They're staging it," I muttered. "Trying to show she's their kid." We contacted the school that same day. They confirmed that the invitation had been handed out by a parent, my mother. She dropped them off on behalf of Emma's family. My wife looked like she was going to throw up. She used the word family, she said, dead quiet. "They're trying to replace us." I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think this was a sick misunderstanding or some kind of twisted way of playing the victim. But then one of the other moms, a woman named Jen, whose son is in Emma's class, called us. She sounded nervous. "Hey." I didn't want to overstep, but I got the invitation and I was confused. "I thought you were planning something." "We are," my wife said, steady but cold. That party isn't from us. There was a pause. Jen cleared her throat. Your mom, she told me you and your husband were having a rough patch. That you were separating. She said Emma was staying with her more often now and that she was taking over birthday plans to help with the transition. My brain white noised. I had to sit down. She said what? She made it sound like you guys were, going through something serious. That you didn't want to deal with party planning. That Emma was happier at their place lately. I couldn't even respond. My wife did barely holding it together. Thank you for telling us. We're so sorry you were dragged into this. That evening we made another report, this time to the school, our lawyer, and the damn police. We didn't press charges yet, but we documented it all. The manipulation. The false claims. The unauthorized invitations. My wife and I sat on the floor of our laundry room after Emma went to bed, both of us too numb to speak. I don't think they ever loved you, she finally whispered. I looked up. She was crying again, the kind of tears you don't even try to stop anymore. I think they loved the idea of a second chance. But not you. Not me. Just the control. And now they want Emma to fix it. To be the blank slate they can rewrite history on. I couldn't deny it. Every birthday they missed when I was a kid. Every cold shoulder. Every fight they swept under the rug. They were erasing it through Emma. Pretending they were the doting, loving grandparents when they hadn't even been half-decent parents. The worst part? Emma still loved them. She still asked when she could see Nana again. Still clutched that damn sea turtle plush when she went to sleep. And how do you explain betrayal to a 4-year-old? How do you tell her the people who gave you life tried to steal hers? We wrote an official cease and desist. No contact. No visits. No gifts. No invitations. Our lawyer served it the next day. I figured we'd get blowback. I figured they'd deny everything. But what I didn't expect was that same night they called Emma's preschool and asked to be put on her emergency pickup list. Without our permission. They said we forgot to include them. And the school almost did it. I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. I had a feeling. I dried my hands, walked into the living room, and hit play on speaker. Hey, it's your dad. That voice. Slower. Tired. He sounded older than I remembered. Older than he sounded when he took our daughter without a second thought. I know you're probably screening every call, and you're right to. I don't expect you to forgive us. But I need to say something. I glanced toward the hallway. My wife was getting Emma dressed for bed. I lowered the volume and sat down, heart hammering in my chest. Your mother and we messed up. I see that now. We thought we were doing what was best. I thought, if we could just give Emma the kind of life we failed to give you, then maybe. There was a long pause. The kind that sounds like someone holding back something huge. The truth is, we didn't just want time with her. We planned it. I stopped breathing. I told your mom we should just ask. But she said you and your wife wouldn't understand. That you'd say no because of the boundaries. So we agreed we'd take her for a day and then extend the trip. Ease it in. Make you realize she's happier with us. I gripped the phone like it might shatter in my hand. We didn't mean to scare you. We didn't think you'd actually call lawyers. He exhaled. Wanted a second chance. Then, the part that gutted me. I didn't think what we were doing was wrong until I saw her on the beach, asking if Mommy was sad. She looked at me and said, I think Mommy's mad I'm gone too long. And for the first time I realized we weren't the heroes. We were the villains. I could barely hear the last part. You don't have to call me back. Just protect her. Don't make the mistakes I made. And tell her we love her. Okay? Click. I just sat there, motionless. Not angry, not even sad. Just shattered. Because this wasn't a stranger. This was my father. The man who taught me how to ride a bike, even if he never told me he was proud after. The man who was always just there, cold, stubborn, impossible to impress. And now, too late, admitting he knew what he did was wrong. It was everything I needed to hear, and nothing I could accept. I played the voicemail for our lawyer the next morning. They confirmed it was enough to support our request for a restraining order, especially paired with the recording from Emma's watch and the school pickup attempt. We filed for a temporary protective order, barring them from contacting us or Emma in any way, attending her school, doctor visits, or public events, approaching within 300 feet of our home. The school apologized. Profusely. They'd flagged the request because we'd already submitted the cease and desist, but it had gotten lost in internal bureaucracy. They swore it wouldn't happen again. Emma didn't know anything. We kept it that way. She was just excited about her new sneakers and a playdate with a neighbor's kid. We smiled, hugged her, kissed her head, but inside, we were done. 2 days later, my mother left a letter in our mailbox. She must have dropped it off herself, since the restraining order hadn't been granted yet. It was 10 pages long, half apology, half threat. She wrote, "You're overreacting. We raised you. You turned out okay. You owe us more than this. Then, we won't stop fighting for Emma. She needs us. One day she'll resent you for keeping her away from her grandparents." I handed it to our lawyer without reading the rest. We filed for a permanent order the next morning. Court day. My wife braided Emma's hair that morning like it was any other day. Like our lives weren't about to be put under a microscope. Like our child's safety wasn't being questioned by the very people who'd violated it. Emma looked up and asked, "Are you going to the grown-up doctor place again?" I choked on my own breath. My wife smiled through her tears and said, "Yes, sweetie. But don't worry. Daddy and I are going to fix everything." She didn't ask more. She never did. God, I hated that she was used to adults disappearing for hours to talk about things that somehow always ended with rules she didn't understand. We dropped her off at a friend's house. Then we walked into that courtroom like two people marching toward the edge of something. They were already seated when we arrived. My parents. My mom in her smug little navy blazer like she thought dressing grandmotherly was going to win her favor. My dad in a tie he probably hadn't worn since my high school graduation. Next to them, a sharp-looking woman in a charcoal gray suit. Their attorney. I turned to our lawyer. "They're filing something, aren't they?" He nodded. "They've submitted a counterclaim petitioning the court for formal visitation rights under grandparent statutes." My wife went pale. "They're doubling down?" "No," I said. "They're going nuclear." The hearing started with our restraining order request. We had the evidence, the unauthorized trip, the voice recordings, the manipulation, the preschool pickup attempt, the fake birthday invitations. The judge listened closely, asked questions, seemed disturbed, but neutral. Then it was their turn. Their attorney stood and said, "My clients acknowledge a lapse in communication. However, their actions were motivated by concern for the child's emotional well-being." I swear, my wife physically flinched at the phrase. They acted on long-standing relationships with their granddaughter. They believed, wrongly, perhaps, that their role as grandparents gave them latitude. But there was no criminal intent. There was no harm. Then she handed the judge their evidence. Photos, texts, cards Emma had made at preschool addressed to Nana and Papa. My mom sniffled loudly. My dad kept staring at the table like it might swallow him whole. Their lawyer added, "They are simply asking the court to protect their bond with their granddaughter, not to take custody, not to overrule the parents, but to preserve a connection that already exists." That was the moment I snapped. I stood, against my lawyer's advice. The judge looked at me. "Mr. Carson?" "Your Honor," I said, my voice shaking, "I need you to understand something. They didn't just overstep. They took her across state lines. They tried to convince her she lived with them now. They gaslit her. They tried to erase us. And now they want to pretend it was all a misunderstanding." I turned toward my parents. My mom's eyes were glassy like a woman playing a victim on a daytime soap. "I gave you everything," I said to her. "Chance after chance. And you threw it away. You lied. You tried to steal my daughter. You manipulated her and told her we were too busy to raise her." She blinked just once. No tears. No apology. I turned back to the judge. "You give them visitation, they'll take a mile. They'll wait for the next crack in the door. They're not here to be grandparents. They're here to replace us." The courtroom was silent. The judge nodded slowly and said she would take all matters under advisement. 2 weeks passed. We barely slept. Emma had a nightmare about the ocean house and we stayed up all night watching cartoons curled up on the couch. Then the ruling came. The judge granted our permanent restraining order. No visitation. No contact. And in her written ruling, she stated that our parents had demonstrated a disturbing disregard for parental rights, boundaries, and the psychological well-being of the minor child. They tried to appeal. They lost. That was 9 months ago. Since then, we've moved. Changed Emma's school. Got a new number. New address. Total lockdown. Our lawyer helped us seal the court records. My parents haven't contacted us again. Emma still sleeps with that little sea turtle plush. Sometimes she asks when she'll see Nana again. And I tell her the truth, not for a long, long time. She usually just shrugs and goes back to her drawing. But last week, she showed me a picture she made of our family. Mommy, Daddy, her, the dog, the house, and two stick figures way in the background behind a big red wall. Who are they? I asked. She said, I don't know. Just some people who don't live here anymore.